Hello students, today we will move on to the next topic, that is bleaching powder. So last session we have studied the chloralkali process, that is from NaCl how you prepare hydrogen, chlorine and NaOH. Okay, so today we will see what is bleaching powder. Now you got chlorine from the chloralkali process, isn't it? That means you have hydrogen at cathode, chlorine at anode and NaOH at the sides of cathode. Okay. So from this chlorine, you got the chlorine. So when chlorine gas is passed through calcium hydroxide. What is calcium hydroxide? You know, calcium hydroxide is slate lime, isn't it? Calcium hydroxide is slate lime. Now if this chlorine gas is passed through calcium hydroxide and dry slate lime, it is said that it should be passed through dry slate lime, then you will get a compound which is called as bleaching powder, or the chemical name is calcium oxychloride. Got it? The chemical name is calcium oxychloride and the chemical formula is CaOCl2. So this is the preparation of bleaching powder. Okay, so when chlorine gas is passed through dry slate lime, that is calcium hydroxide, so the calcium hydroxide, dry slate lime, then you will get a compound which is called as calcium oxychloride. For common name you call it as bleaching powder. So the common name is bleaching powder, the chemical name is calcium oxychloride. See, in exam it will be asked, what is the chemical name of bleaching powder? You have to write calcium oxychloride. And what is the chemical formula for bleaching powder? It is CaOCl2. Okay, so this is how bleaching powder is prepared. Understood? Now we will see the uses of bleaching powder. What are the main uses of bleaching powder? You know, it is used as a disinfectant, isn't it? And also, since from name itself, you know, it is used for bleaching the clothes in textile industry. Okay, so the first use of bleaching powder is, it is used as a bleach in textile industry. Okay, textile industry, that is in order to bleach cotton and linen clothes, especially to bleach the cotton and linen clothes in the textile industry. And also the wood pulp, you know wood pulp, isn't it? Wood pulp in paper factories. Wood pulp in paper factories. These are all used for as a bleach. And in laundry purpose. Laundry purpose. So in the first point itself, 3 sub-points are there. One is in order to bleach especially the cotton as well as the linen in the textile industry. Second is, it is used to bleach the wood pulp which you get from the tree, that wood, that pulp to bleach in the paper factory in order to make the paper and all. And third is for the laundry purpose. For the washed clothes you will bleach it. So for the laundry purposes also bleaching powder is used. Okay, clear? Now the second use, it is used in chemical industry. Now 3 industries are there, textile industry, paper industry and one more industry. It is used as an oxidizing agent. It is used as an oxidizing agent in what? In chemical industry. In chemical industry. So if a question is asked, write 3 industrial uses of bleaching powder. You can write, it is used as a bleach in textile industry, in paper factory or paper industry and also in chemical industry. Okay. Now in chemical industry it is used as an oxidizing agent. You know what is oxidizing agent? Which helps in oxidation, isn't it? Or some substances which can provide oxygen. See, the formula is calcium oxychloride. It has got an oxygen to give to the other compounds. That is why it is called as an oxidizing agent. Which helps in oxidation, or it has excess oxygen, or it has oxygen to give. So it is used as an oxidizing agent. And third is, it is used in disinfectant. It is used as a disinfectant, that is for killing germs. Okay, in water, if you add a small amount of bleaching powder in water, it will kill the germs because it is due to the action of chlorine there. Okay, so these are the 3 uses of bleaching powder. Got it? So this is all about bleaching powder. So bleaching powder is nothing but calcium oxychloride. But actually, this chemical formula of this bleaching powder is not this. It is a little bit complicated. Okay, that you will study in higher classes. So for you now, what is the chemical formula means? You have to write only CaOCl2. This is not the exact formula, but for your purpose it is okay. Correct? Now we will pass on to the next compound. That is, you are studying what? NaCl as a raw material, you are studying so many important compounds. Okay. So the next compound is sodium bicarbonate, which you call it as baking soda. What is it? Sodium bicarbonate, that is baking soda. How will you write sodium bicarbonate? NaHCO3 bicarbonate. Or you can again call it as sodium hydrogen carbonate, isn't it? Valency you know, this is -1 and +1. So now you will prepare how sodium bicarbonate is prepared. First of all, the common name for this is baking soda. Okay, the common name is baking soda. Now, what is the chemical name? Chemical name is sodium bicarbonate or hydrogen carbonate. Okay, and what is the chemical formula? NaHCO3. So, these you have to study. Chemical formula, chemical name and common name. Now, we will see the preparation of sodium bicarbonate. How you will prepare sodium bicarbonate as putting one of the raw material as what? Sodium chloride. We are studying that, no? From sodium chloride, how can you prepare important compounds in industries as well as in day-to-day life? That is what we are studying. First we studied chloralkali process. There you got hydrogen, chlorine and sodium hydroxide. Then you studied bleaching powder. And now we are going to study about the baking soda. And you know what is the use of baking soda in kitchen, in our daily life? This baking soda is put in batter for making crispy pakoras. Your mom will be knowing. Just ask your mom. Or for batter, in order to make it fluffy and spongy, they will use baking soda. Okay. So, in the preparation of baking soda, one of the raw materials, as you know, it is sodium chloride. Now, from sodium chloride, how will you make this baking soda? Now, when sodium chloride is treated with ammonia, carbon dioxide and water, this is the only equation where there are 4 reactants coming together. Keep in mind. In your textbook, in chemistry, of all the 5 chapters, this is the only equation where 4 reactants putting together to get products. Okay. So keep in mind that. What are they? Sodium chloride plus ammonia. You know ammonia. In fertilizers you have studied in biology, right? Ammonia, then carbon dioxide and water. What you will get? You will get 2 products. One is our product, that is sodium bicarbonate or baking soda, and the other is ammonia and chlorine. You will get ammonium chloride. And as I always says, whenever an equation is written, get it balanced. Right? Now, so this is the equation. That is sodium chloride plus ammonia plus carbon dioxide plus water. You will get sodium bicarbonate plus ammonium chloride. So this is the preparation of baking soda. Understood? Now we will see what are its uses and what are its property. You know, sodium bicarbonate, when we look for the pH of this sodium bicarbonate, it shows the pH which is slightly greater than 7. Slightly greater means it is a mild base. It is not a very strong base, but it is a mild base. Okay. So we can write it as a mild base. And that is the reason why the sodium bicarbonate or baking soda can be used in antacids. You know, for relieving the pain in stomach, we have antacids. So, in order to manufacture the antacids, since it is a mild base and also it is non-corrosive in nature. What do you mean by non-corrosive? It is not at all corrosive. You can have it. In medicines and all, you can have it, there is no problem. It won't corrode, it won't burn, isn't it? So that is, you know, concentrated acids are corrosive in nature. Example, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid. As the same way, bases, concentrated bases or strong bases are also corrosive in nature. For example, sodium hydroxide. It is highly corrosive. Okay, so this, as far as baking soda or sodium bicarbonate is considered, it is a non-corrosive mild base. That is, the pH is slightly above 7. Okay, that is why it can act, or since it is a base, it can neutralize an acid. That is why it is used in antacids, isn't it? When acids are generated in the stomach, the pH will be very, very less. For that what purpose? You have antacids. In antacids, normally sodium bicarbonate is used as one of the ingredients. Why? Because it is a base, it can neutralize the acid. Got it? Now, then we coming on to the uses of sodium bicarbonate. Okay, so now you know how sodium bicarbonate is obtained or prepared. Preparation of sodium bicarbonate. Now there is only one reaction in sodium bicarbonate, and that reaction is when sodium bicarbonate, okay, when sodium bicarbonate is heated, you just heat that sodium bicarbonate. That is what we are seeing in our kitchen, that is in frying the pakoras and all, or in using some batter to make dosas or idlis. Some people will add this baking soda in order to get that fluffiness. Okay, that smooth idli and all. Okay, so when you just heat it, it will form sodium carbonate plus carbon dioxide plus water. See, which gas is produced? Carbon dioxide gas is produced. Since this carbon dioxide gas is produced from this, it will have that fluffiness or sponginess in that compound. Whenever you make pakoras or dosas, etc., it will have a fluffy nature due to the liberation of carbon dioxide. That is why. Okay, so this is Na2, no? So you have to balance it. So 2NaHCO3. Whenever sodium bicarbonate is heated, what are the products? Sodium carbonate plus carbon dioxide plus water. See, you have to study all these equations by only writing. Just by reading the equation, you can't get it whenever it is applicable. So, I suggest you that you take a small book or a diary, which you call it as equation diary. And you know now so many equations we have studied in the first chapter. The decompose all the reactions, there are equations, right? So you have to write all these equations in one book. So we call it as equation diary. And whenever you want, you can refer to that easily before going to the exam. Or if you have a doubt in that, don't want to check all the books, but just get the diary and check it. So have a habit of that. Today itself, you just make a diary and put all the equations in it, and important informations regarding that also you can add. Correct. So you can add on that. You just write the equation, you leave some space, a half a page you leave, so that whenever some additional information you get on that, you can add to it. Okay. So that is how you maintain a diary, equation diary. Okay. So you are clear with that, right? So start from today itself. Okay. Now, so what happens when it is heated? Sodium bicarbonate, on heating you will get sodium carbonate plus carbon dioxide plus water. So this is only one reaction you have to study in baking soda. Understood? Is it clear? You have to write the equation so many times, then only you will get a hang of it. Just for the name's sake, if you write one equation, yes, I studied, I know it, it won't recollect it sometimes for some people. Okay. So make a habit of getting the equations always. If you have a free time, just get a paper and pencil and try to get the equations, whether it gets right or wrong. Okay, that is how you get in memory. Now, the uses. What are the main three uses we will study for each compound? Okay. What are the main uses of baking powder? The first use of baking powder is to make baking soda. See, baking soda is different from, very sorry, it is baking powder. So, the first use is to make baking powder. You see, baking soda and baking powder are different. Okay, so now we will see how you will prepare baking powder from baking soda. Okay, how you prepare means, when baking soda, that is NaHCO3, you know that NaHCO3 is baking soda. When it is treated with any edible acid, what will be edible acid? Edible acid means we can have it. There is no problem in taking this acid. When you talk about acid, you are wondering whether you can take it. You can intake the acid or not. That is why we said edible acid. For example, in which tartaric acid? Where you get tartaric acid? From tamarinds, isn't it? Tartaric acid. Citrus acid is from lemon. Or citric fruits you get citric acid. Now oxalic acid where you will get from tomatoes. Then malic acid, you know that malic acid? Malic acid you will get from apple. Okay. Then tamarind, from tamarind you will get tartaric acid. So any edible acid, when you treat this edible acid with sodium bicarbonate, that is our baking soda, when you heat it or when it mixes with water, anything will do. When heat it or mix with water, you will get, listen very carefully, you will get carbon dioxide plus water. That is the main product which we get in sodium bicarbonate on heating. In the last reaction with sodium bicarbonate on heating, you got carbon dioxide plus water and sodium carbonate, isn't it? Now instead of sodium carbonate, here you are using this edible acid, tartaric acid. So what you have to write it as, since it is an acid, you have to write only H+. Listen very carefully. You don't have to write the tartaric acid formula, it is lengthy. And it is difficult to remember, leave it. So you just, to make sure that this is an acid, you just put H+ in that equation. Don't need to write this edible acid or tartaric acid. See, I am just writing for the namesake to understand you. You know, don't need to write this. You just write this H+. NaHCO3 plus H+, that is enough. Okay, in order to make you understand, I am writing this. Edible acid like tartaric acid or malic acid or citric acid, you can add that. Now, coming to the product, that is important. Carbon dioxide and water is getting. Along with that, what you will get? You will get the salt of this acid, isn't it? What salt? Sodium salt of this acid. So you just write, what you write? Sodium, no need for chemical equation, chemical formula. You write in words as sodium salt of acid. Just acid. You don't have to mention the tartaric acid also. You just write the sodium salt of acid. If it is tartaric acid, you can say sodium salt of tartaric acid or sodium tartarate. You can have that. Or if you make oxalic acid, that's also edible. Isn't it? In tomatoes you get oxalic acid. Then what you will write? You can write sodium oxalate, oxyum malate, isn't it? So these are all what? These types of salts you will get in this equation. Is it clear? Once again I will tell you, when sodium bicarbonate is treated with any edible acid, then you will get carbon dioxide plus water plus sodium salt of that acid. Whichever acid is using, the sodium salt of that acid you will get. Now the point is, again which gas is produced in this reaction? Carbon dioxide, isn't it? So since carbon dioxide is used in this reaction, you heard or you know that this baking powder you use it in preparation of cakes, isn't it? Cakes and other products. Now you know in cakes there are small holes in this cakes if you examine the cake very carefully. Now how this cake becomes fluffy and spongy, you have heard of spongy cakes, right? Very nice and very soft cake to eat. That is because due to the formation of this carbon dioxide gas. Since the carbon dioxide is evolved from this substance, you can have that fluffiness or sponginess or softness of that product or substance. That is why it is mainly used for baking purpose. It is also since called as baking powder, it is called as baking purpose. That means in order to bake it, you will add the sodium baking powder, then carbon dioxide is evolved, thereby it gets fluffy or spongy. Correct? So that is about sodium, that is the preparation of baking powder. Is it clear? Now one board exam question is there in this. That is, once they have asked, the first question is why the cakes are spongy in nature when baking powder is used. That you know. The value point is the liberation of carbon dioxide gas. Well, the second question once they have asked is why tartaric acid is used. Edible acid they have pointed out tartaric acid. Why tartaric acid is used as an edible acid in the formation of or the preparation of baking powder. Now why this tartaric acid is used? Just logic reason. Think that this is a mild base, isn't it? And you know that bases are what in taste? You are intaking this baking powder, no? So that is bitter in taste, isn't it? Bitter in taste. The base is bitter in taste. So in order to remove the bitterness of this base or sodium bicarbonate, you are adding an acid to it in order to avoid the bitterness of this base. That is a value point. How will we make it? To avoid, make a point on that. Avoid the bitterness. The value point should be bitterness, not sourness. Sourness is for acid, isn't it? So when sourness and bitterness combines, it won't have any effect of that bitterness. It will be neutral or normal. You know, right? Acid plus base giving salt and water. Salt is always what? In most cases, it will be tasteless. Like it won't be bitter. So that is why. So in order to avoid the bitterness of base, or you can write sodium bicarbonate. In order to avoid the bitterness of sodium bicarbonate, you are using tartaric acid. So make a point on it. Okay, just write somewhere. Very, very important. Once they have asked why tartaric acid in making baking powder. So what is the value point? In order to avoid the bitterness of this base or sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. Okay, now you have an idea of how baking powder is used. And you know now that baking powder and baking soda are two different compounds and not one compound, isn't it? Now we will pass on to the next next use of baking soda. Okay. Shall I rub this? Now the second use of baking soda. Baking soda is what? Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. What is the chemical formula? NaHCO3. What is the chemical name? Sodium bicarbonate. What is the common name? Baking soda. Now the second use of sodium bicarbonate. First use for making baking soda. Okay. First is baking powder. First use is baking powder. Baking powder. Okay. Now the second use of sodium bicarbonate is, as you all know, it is used in antacid preparation. Antacid preparation. Why? What is the point in there? It is since it is a mild base, mild non-corrosive base. Since sodium bicarbonate is a mild non-corrosive base, it is used in making antacids. Isn't it? Antacid means in order to prevent the acidity, you are giving a base. So in that case, the base you can have baking soda. Simple use. Now the third use is, it is used in soda acid fire extinguisher. What is it? It is used in soda acid fire extinguisher. What is this soda acid? You know about fire extinguisher, no? You know, if a fire happens, that we know in our school also, in every building, that every floor you have a fire extinguisher. Have you noticed it? One red bottle like thing. Okay, so that is fire extinguisher. For what use it is? For what use the fire extinguisher? That is in order to cut off the fire if fire happens. So what is exactly the reaction behind this, or the chemistry behind this fire extinguisher? That means, which gas is an extinguisher? Which gas? Carbon dioxide gas. You know, carbon dioxide is a fire extinguisher gas. It will extinguish the fire. So, in this soda acid fire extinguisher, which gas is produced? Carbon dioxide gas is produced. So that will cut off the fire when fire comes. Okay, so that is the use of fire extinguisher. Now you see, when you go back to the chapter metals and non-metals, there you have studied. What is it? When metal carbonates or metal bicarbonates react with acid, generic equation, what was the product formed? The product is salt plus carbon dioxide plus water, isn't it? Are you remembering that? So when the sodium bicarbonate, the same equation we have studied, when sodium bicarbonate is treated with any acid, whether it is HCl or H2SO4 dilute, what you will get? You will get the salt as NaCl along with carbon dioxide gas plus water. See? When this carbon dioxide escapes from this extinguisher, it will extinguishes the fire. It will put off the fire. Okay, so that is why that is the use of sodium bicarbonate in soda acid fire extinguisher. Now you know the chemistry behind the fire extinguisher. Okay, so these are the three uses of baking soda. Clear? Now we will move on to the next compound, that is washing soda. Okay, now we will move on to the next, that is washing soda. What is washing soda? Washing soda, you know, it is used for washing. That is why its name comes as washing soda, isn't it? Okay. Now washing soda is nothing but washing soda. Okay. Washing soda. Now washing soda, the chemical, this is a common name, washing soda. Now what is the chemical name of washing soda? Chemical name of washing soda is sodium carbonate. Okay, sodium carbonate, or you can say hydrated sodium carbonate. Listen, this is a new name. What is the hydrated? Hydrated means there is water molecules in it. Hydrated, it is water. Okay, so it is called as hydrated sodium carbonate. That is the chemical name. Now what is the chemical formula then? Formula is Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. See, a new type of compound is here. Till now we have studied only Na2CO3 or NaHCO3 or calcium oxychloride or sodium chloride or calcium phosphate, etc. Now what is this 10H2O? Yeah, you have studied in decomposition reaction, right? FeSO4.7H2O. Okay, you have studied. Right. So this 10H2O means this is water molecules, right? This is water molecules. And I am again saying this sodium carbonate or washing soda is crystalline solid. Listen, it is crystalline solid. Now you are wondering, I am telling this as a crystalline solid, but the formula, if you look into it, there is 10 water molecules. Now how can it be? The water molecules, definitely you are thinking it will be a liquid, and this salt must be a liquid. But it is a crystalline solid. So this water molecule or this 10 water molecules, there is a name for that. Okay, that we will study in the next, we will be studying shortly. That is called as water of crystallization. What is it? Water of crystallization. After the sodium washing soda, we will study what is this water crystallization. Okay. So just remember this dot 10H2O means this substance or this compound is having 10 molecules of water. And now you will get an idea, or you will having an idea when I said water of crystallization, isn't it? This water molecule will be in the form of a crystal, isn't it? So we will see later, or shortly we will see. Now, so this is about washing soda. What is it? Sodium carbonate or hydrated sodium carbonate or sodium carbonate 10H2O. It is a crystalline white solid. It's a white solid. Okay. Now we will see the preparation of sodium carbonate or washing soda. It's a very simple preparation. You know baking soda, that is sodium bicarbonate, isn't it? We have studied this equation in baking soda. That means when baking soda is heated, you will get Na2CO3 plus CO2 plus H2O. You are remembering just now we studied. The only one reaction, I told you there is only one reaction for this baking soda. So this is the first reaction. That is how you will get the sodium carbonate, isn't it? But what you have to get it, you have to get the formula for washing soda is Na2CO3.10H2O. Now you already got Na2CO3. Now what you have to do? You have to add 10 molecules of water. So the next step is Na2CO3 plus 10 molecules of water will give you Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. You have to put that dot clearly. That is Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. Correct? Okay. So this is what washing soda. Now how will you write if your question is asked to write the preparation? You have to write by heating sodium bicarbonate you will get sodium carbonate, and then this sodium carbonate, there is a value point there. When this sodium carbonate on recrystallization, that is the value point. So either you can write in this arrow, it is recrystallization. What is it? Recrystallization. Okay. So on recrystallization of sodium carbonate, you will get what? Washing soda. That is sodium carbonate dot 10H2O. So this point you have to write. If the question is asked for the preparation, this recrystallization of sodium carbonate, you will get what? The washing soda, that is sodium carbonate dot 10H2O. Correct? Now we will see the uses of washing soda or sodium carbonate. So this is clear for you, the preparation. The value point you have to note it as recrystallization. But one more thing. Now you started from sodium bicarbonate, isn't it? Now when the question is asked, how will you prepare washing soda from sodium chloride? Then what will you do? You go for sodium chloride. Okay, then you have to prepare NaHCO3. How? By ammonia plus carbon dioxide plus water. So from this step onwards you have to write to get this sodium bicarbonate. Then sodium, you can have a flow chart on that. Sodium carbonate on heating, you will get Na2CO3. And this Na2CO3, 10H2O. Here you write it as recrystallization. You will get Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. So from this, starting from NaCl, you have to end till washing soda. So how the question comes, how the format of the question, depending on that, you have to write the answer. That is up to you, how you take it. Okay. How much we studied, we taught you. When a question comes, how you present the answer, or how, depending on the question, you have to present the answer. There is the point blanks, how you present it. Okay, that is why every person is different in answering that and get more marks. Okay. The way of presenting an answer. Okay. Now we will see the uses of washing soda. Okay. Now the first use of washing soda is in 3 industry it can be used. Once a question is asked, give 3 industrial use of washing soda. That is in paper industry, just study that, paper industry, then glass industry and soap industry. See, in glass industry, paper industry and soap industry, this washing soda is used. Okay. Simple. Now second use is, it is used in making compounds, that is it is used in making sodium compounds. Since it is sodium carbonate, it is used in making sodium compounds like borax. Just study that. You do not need to go into detail of borax. It is Na2B4O7. Just don't leave it. Just study. It is used for making sodium compounds like borax. Okay. Now, the third is, it is used in removing the permanent hardness of water. Permanent hardness of water. What do you mean by permanent hardness of water? You know water are of two types, soft water and hard water. What is soft water? The water we are getting here. That means if you put soap into it, it will form lather very easily. But hard water means the water you are getting in Chennai and all, you have hard water, in Delhi and all, you have hard water. That means it don't make leather so easily. You have to rub and rub and rub so much time to get little lather or form. Why? Because it is due to the presence of ions like magnesium, calcium, etc. The precipitation has taken place. So leave that part. Just study. In order to make this hardness into softness, then only it can be used as cooking purpose and all. Okay. Now, so what you will do, right? You will boil the water. You just simply boil the water for 20 minutes. The hard water can be converted to soft water. Now what happens is, while boiling this, the magnesium ions and calcium ions will precipitate as soluble hydroxides. That we will see later in higher classes. So just to remove, okay, just to remove, that also you write, to remove the permanent hardness of water, you put washing soda into it. That is the third use of washing soda. Okay, and one more use if you want, to cleaning purpose. For domestic cleaning purpose, in your household items, if you want to clean some articles like spoons, vessels, etc., this washing soda is used. So domestic purposes also it is used. Okay, for domestic cleaning purposes, the sodium carbonate is used or washing soda is used. So these are the four important uses of, there are so many uses, right? So some uses you have to study about this washing soda. Paper, glass and soap industry. So to make sodium compounds like borax, BORAX, to remove the permanent hardness of water while boiling and putting this. Then for domestic cleaning purposes, if you want to clean some domestic articles, you can have this washing soda. So got it? Understood clearly? This is a simple chapter, right? Okay, topic. Now we are coming to the next important point. What we have said is water of crystallization. Okay, water of crystallization, isn't it? That's it. Water of crystallization. That is interesting one. Crystallization. Okay. So, if we have a compound like what we have said is Na2SO4.10H2O. It is having 10 water molecules, but it is a crystalline solid white, isn't it? Again, if you go for copper sulfate.5H2O, again this is a solid which is very blue in color, very small blue crystals are there. Okay. Now again, if you say compound ferrous sulfate.7H2O, you have studied, this is having a green color, white crystalline small like sugar crystals, you know, right? Like the sugar crystals, these two are there. Sodium sulfate little more bigger, but these two are same as small thin sugar crystals. Okay. Again, there are examples, calcium sulfate.2H2O. Okay, so many examples are there. Even acid, if you are wondering, you must be wondering that acid, is it a salt? Yes, like salicylic acid. Salicylic acid. See, salicylic acid is a white powder. It's a white powder. So how all this, even though it is having, this is called as water of crystallization, even though it is having water molecules, why this is not wet, it is dry? The question is, why these compounds are dry or solid substances and not liquid substances? Okay. For that, there is one activity. This this is called as blue vitriol. Just for information, blue vitriol. Okay. In chemistry, you call it as blue vitriol. This is green vitriol. Okay. This is green vitriol. Okay. And this is white vitriol. So just like that. Okay. Now there is an activity to know what is this 10H2O or what is this 7H2O or what is this 5H2O. You will get the answer with an experiment, okay, or an activity. In activity, what you will do is you get a test tube or a bigger one. Bigger one you say it as boiling tube. Test tube means a small size. So you will take a boiling tube, a bigger size. Okay. And the important thing is you have to take a dry boiling tube, right? No moisture content is there in that. So dry boiling tube is taken and you put some crystals of copper sulfate. You know it is blue in color. I have a blue color, so I am putting it. So there are blue crystals of copper sulfate. Now what is the chemical formula for copper sulfate? Dot 5H2O. So I am putting this in the and hold it. Okay, just hold it. Okay, hold it. Now what happens? You heat this. You heat this boiling tube which is having copper sulfate dot 5H2O. That is the experimental part. Now what is the experimental part? Take a dry boiling tube, put 2 spoons or spatulas. In chemistry we say spatula. Okay. 2 spoons of copper sulfate crystals into it and heat it. Now what is the observation? There are 2 observations in this. 2 observations in this. The first observation is after a few seconds or few minutes you will see small droplets of water in the sides of this test tube. See, small droplets, the water vapor will come and stick on the test tube and water vapor is there. Small liquid particles of water is seen in the sides of the test tube. Along with that, the second observation is the blue color of copper sulfate is getting changed into white color or colorless. That is important. 2 observations. One is that what is it? Blue color. The first observation is blue color changes to white. Okay, changes to white, or you can say in chemistry colorless. That's also right. Okay, both are right. Colorless or white. That is the first observation. What is the second observation? Small droplets of water. You see, small droplets of water are seen in the sides of the test tube. Okay, so these are the 2 observations. Now, what is the inference for that? What do you infer from this observation? How these water particles are getting into the sides of the test tube? On heating it, the copper sulfate dot 5H2O will loses these water molecules, and that is that water molecule sticking in the sides of the test tube. So from there, it is getting water separated. And since the water is separated, the blue color is getting changed to white color or colorless. Isn't it? Now how can we write the equation for that? Can I write here? Okay. That is copper sulfate dot 5H2O. On heating, you will get what? You will get copper sulfate plus 5H2O. See the difference? Dot 5H2O. Here it is plus 5H2O. Okay. So this is how this water of crystallization is removed. Now you know what is the role of water of crystallization for a compound. See, this water of crystallization gives that compound color as well as geometry. You said it is crystals, right? Crystals are so many types of crystals are studied. Is there? You will study in 12th standard. So many types of lattices are there. So all that shapes of that crystals are given by whom? This water of crystallization. That is why this plays a very important role in the symmetry of these compounds. Okay. So this water of crystallization is mainly gives the crystals, mainly gives the substance color as well as the geometry of that crystal. Okay. Leave it. Now you will say, now you know what is crystallization. Okay. That means it is not in a liquid form, it is in a crystal form, that solid form. In order to give the shape, particular shape for a compound, these crystals are very, very important. Okay, this crystals gives the compound a specific shape. That is geometry. Geometry means what? Shape. Okay, so that is the importance of water of crystallization. Now you can get an idea of why these compounds are dry and not wet. Isn't it? Wet means it will be a liquid state. But is the water of crystallization in liquid state? No. It is exactly in a solid state. Isn't it? Crystals. To form the crystals. Okay. Now we will define what is water of crystallization. So today you have to write this experiment, observation and result. Okay. Today itself you have to write in your notebook. Now coming to how will you define water of crystallization? How will you define water of crystallization? Water of crystallization is defined as the fixed number of water molecules. It is very, very important. The value point is fixed number. Fixed number of water molecules. Water. I am writing H2O, but don't write H2O in your paper, board exam paper, or in notebook, even notebook. Just write water molecule. Correct? For me, just I am writing that, that's all. So fixed number of water molecules present in the first value point is fixed number of water molecules present in, next value point is one formula unit of a particular compound, See, this is the correct definition of water of crystallization. It is the fixed number of water molecules present in, or which is chemically bonded with one formula unit of this compound. Now we will see what exactly this means. For example, you know copper sulfate. Now for one copper sulfate, for one formula unit means this. Since this is ionic, it is called as formula unit. Cu2 plus and SO4 2 minus. Isn't it? So this is formula unit. For this one copper sulfate, what is the water of crystallization, or how much amount of water is needed for crystallizing? That is water of crystallization. So for one formula unit, or for one copper sulfate molecule, it needs 5 water of crystallization. In that case, what about 2 copper sulfate? 10 H2O. Correct. Now what about 3 copper sulfate? 3 copper sulfate is 15 H2O. Okay. Now, what is water of crystallization means? In one formula unit, how much fixed number of water molecules are there, then that you call it as water of crystallization. Correct. For example, now you know what is the water of crystallization of ferrous sulfate? Ferrous sulfate 7 H2O, or 7 H2O is needed for the ferrous sulfate to get crystals. Correct. So this is all about water of crystallization. So now you understand that topic, or the concept why this is not wet, it is dry in nature. Isn't it? So that is interesting. Now the last bit of topic in this chapter, that is the acid, bases and salt, is plaster of Paris. Have you heard of plaster of Paris? The last bit, plaster of Paris, or you simply call it as POP. Okay, the plaster of Paris. Now, plaster of Paris is nothing but, you know, I have written one compound having water of crystallization CaSO4.2H2O, and this compound is nothing but gypsum. What is it? Gypsum. Okay. Now, if your question is asked, what is the water of crystallization of gypsum? What you will write? 2 water molecules are there in gypsum. Okay. Now we will prepare this plaster of Paris from gypsum. Okay. Before that, I will give you the chemical formula of plaster of Paris. It is interesting also. The chemical formula is calcium sulfate dot half H2O. Have you ever heard that a half H2O is existing? No. But theoretically, practicality is different, isn't it? Theoretically, the calcium sulfate, if it is mixed with only half a molecule of water, then the name or plaster of Paris is prepared. Isn't it? Got it? Not one molecule. We have heard about 1 molecule, 2 molecule, 3 molecule. We haven't heard about a half a molecule, right? Okay, so theoretically it needs only half a molecule. That is why practically you cannot have a half a molecule. Now practically how we will write? Listen, it's very important. Practically you will write what? You can't write half, so you have to write 1. So if it is 1 H2O, this 2 will come here. So practically speaking, you can write it as 2 calcium sulfate dot H2O. What this implies or what this means, for 2 calcium sulfate, listen carefully, for 2 calcium sulfate, 1 molecule of water is there. So for 1 molecule of calcium sulfate, how many molecules of water? Half a mole of water. That's it. Correct. So that is how you make experimental procedures. Theory says that, listen, calcium sulfate needs only half a molecule of water and that product is called as plaster of Paris. But practically if you want to do the experiment, you have to take like this and calculations are done according to that. So leave it. So this is about the chemical formula for plaster of Paris. Now how the preparation, and as you know, I have told you, you can prepare the plaster of Paris from gypsum. Very important question for board exam, that is gypsum. Gypsum is calcium sulfate dot 2 H2O and the temperature is very important. See, while we are studying the chemical equations, we have said that conditions are necessary for an equation, balanced equation. Here the condition applies, that is 337 Kelvin, very important. In the arrow you have to write, otherwise you will lose marks, definitely. Okay, so when gypsum is heated at 337 Kelvin, you will get plaster of Paris. What is plaster of Paris? Calcium sulfate dot half H2O. Now see, from 2 H2O, when half H2O is removed, what is the remaining 1.5 H2O? You have to write this formula with this temperature, very important. Okay, now how is plaster of Paris prepared? From gypsum. When gypsum is heated at 337 Kelvin, you have to remember that 337 Kelvin, you will get the plaster of Paris as what? POP, CaSO4 dot half H2O plus the remaining is 1.5 H2O. This name, you can name, this is a common name, plaster of Paris. What is the chemical name? You can say semi-hydrated. See, hydrated means you can say 1 or integer of 1. But if it is half, you can say semi-hydrated. Listen carefully. You can say semi-hydrated calcium sulfate. Semi means semicircle. In a circle, if it is cut into half circle is called as a semicircle. So like that, you can say it is a half H2O is called, so it is called as semi-hydrated calcium sulfate. So this is the preparation of plaster of Paris. Okay. Understood? Now we will see the uses of plaster of Paris. Okay. You know what is the main use of plaster of Paris? First is to make plasters for the fractured bones. If you have fracture in your bones like in legs or in hands, what you will do? You go to the hospital, the doctor will plaster it for you. Now what exactly is this plaster? It is nothing but this plaster of Paris. Okay, when bones are broken, fractured bones are there, first they will put the bone in position and then in order to make that in compact position, there is no need of moving. What they will do? They will plaster it so that you can't, it is immovable. Okay, so for that plaster of Paris is used. So in order to plaster, it's a very important use, in order to plaster the fractured bones. Okay, in order to plaster the fractured bones, plaster of Paris is used. You know, plaster of Paris is a very smooth white solid mass. Okay, then this is treated with water. What the doctors will do? They will take the plaster of Paris, then they will mix it with water and apply it in your wherever you have that fracture. Now what happens? Suddenly within seconds it will form into a solid, hard solid mass. See? Hard solid mass. And if somebody is having or if somebody is knowing about this fracture, if somebody is having that fracture and apply this plaster into your fractured thing, you know how difficult to remove that plaster after 3 months or 2 months, isn't it? It's very difficult because it is a very hard solid mass. So why that? The application is you want to make that bone, fractured bone intact. It should not move. That is why you apply this plaster of Paris, and since it's a very hard mass, it won't get dislocated, isn't it? That's the correct word, dislocation. Dislocation doesn't happen. That is why you are looking this use of plaster of Paris. Okay, it's a very important use. Actually, what is happening in this, when you add water, gypsum is formed, isn't it? Yes, and more than that. Second is, it is used, a simple use is, it is used in making toys, this plaster of Paris. Okay, and the third is, it is used in decorative things or in use of ornamental things. In order to make decorative things, you use plaster of Paris. And also, in order to make the surface very shiny or smooth, for making smooth surfaces, we use plaster of Paris. So many uses are there. Just study 2 or 3. Mainly, you study this thing. That is the plaster the fractured bones. And second is for making toys or decorative things or ornamental things, or to make the surface very smooth. And there is a very big story behind the plaster of Paris that you will get. I will tell you sometime later. So today, that's it. Till then, thank you.
Take some copper sulfate crystals, a spirit lamp, test tube, beaker filled with water, petri dish. Take some crystals of copper sulfate in a test tube. Now put the test tube on the flame and wait till we expel the water from the crystal. Be patient. Observe water vapors coming out of the hot copper sulfate crystals. Also notice the beautiful blue crystals turning white. Let the anhydrous white powder of copper sulfate cool. Take a pinch of it and feel. It feels dry and powdery. Now add a few drops of water to this anhydrous salt. The salt regains its color and crystalline form. It is blue once again.